So, in light of the 3 U.S. troops who lost their lives in Jordan near the Syrian border, I just wanted to go through the news today as far as like the details that are slowly coming out about the attack. So, enemy drone that killed U.S. troops in Jordan was mistaken for a U.S. drone, prelim reports suggest. So, details of the Sunday attack emerge as President Biden is facing the difficult balancing act of blaming Iran and looking to strike back in a forceful way without causing any further escalation in the Gaza conflict. As the enemy drone was flying in a low altitude, the U.S. drone was returning to the small installation known as Tower 22, which is like a barracks. According to the prelim report cited by 2 officials who were not authorized to comment and insisted on anonymity. So the question is, there was a little bit of a failure here as far as like human error is concerned, because they thought it was actually a U.S. drone, but they didn't know it was actually a hostile drone, probably from a Iranian proxy. So my only question is how we're actually going to respond to this, because is the U.S. going to actually start escalating like full-on hot war with Iran, which I think is not likely given this information. So this is Reuters. The Pentagon says it is not seeking war with Iran after Jordan attack. So, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Monday vowed the U.S. would take all necessary action to defend its troops after deadly drone attack in Jordan by Iran-backed militants, even as President Biden administration stressed it is not seeking a war with Iran. So this is actually good news because they're actively not trying to actually go to war with Iran, even though we have a bunch of chicken hawks like Lindsey Graham trying to drag us into a war with Iran. They've been beating that drum for years. Unfortunately, since Donald Trump pulled us out of the nuclear Iranian deal, things have just kind of escalated slowly since then. And we killed their General Soleimani, who was actually on the ground fighting ISIS at the time. And we killed him, and that already started tensions between the U.S. and Iran. So here's Joe Biden talking about it. It's a little hard to hear, sorry.
I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases. Yeah. And I'd ask for a moment of silence for all 3 of those fallen soldiers, and we shall respond.
So what does that exactly mean as far as we shall respond? Are we just going to do more sanctions against them, or are we actually going to start going after these Iranian-backed groups? We're already attacking the Houthis in Yemen, and that isn't going so great. So now apparently we're just going to keep on escalating slowly, and eventually it's probably going to turn into a hot war situation. Or we can do what Ronald Reagan did, which is just pull our troops out of Lebanon, and it's not worth the lives, it's not worth the risk as far as destabilizing the region even more. But I think we should just pull out and just say, hey, we're taking our troops out of harm's way, and we're just going to leave this part of the region of the world and let them fight amongst each other, because that's all they ever do. Here's another U.S. official as far as with the Defense Department. This is his thoughts.
But certainly, at the end of the day, we are not looking to engage in a wider conflict, merely to ensure regional security and stability.
Does the administration think proportional attacks will change the situation in the Middle East?
Well, again, what we're going to do is we will take deliberate, appropriate action. Our focus here is not to broaden a conflict from the very beginning. We've been very focused on ensuring that the situation in Israel does not broaden into a wider regional conflict. Unfortunately, what you have here are Iranian proxy groups that are exploiting the situation and conducting these types of illegal attacks against forces that are in the region to actually preserve peace and stability. So again, we're going to do what we need to do to protect our forces, while also cognizant of the fact that what we don't want is a wider regional conflict.
But would you?
I think the U.S. troops being placed throughout the Middle East, aren't we already kind of inflaming tensions because we're putting our military bases out in the rest of the world? And they're just like, well, why is this here? We wouldn't accept this if they were doing it to us, but they had to accept it when we do it to them. And so whether this is going to balance and spiral out of control, it remains to be seen. It just seems to be getting worse. I think there should be some sort of ceasefire in Gaza at this point, because it's just slowly getting out of control. And when there was that temporary ceasefire in exchange for hostages, these attacks did slow down. I don't know if they actually totally stopped, but they did slow down. So that's just kind of a small update, and I'll keep you all posted.